Grad school taught me how to do therapy, but it did not teach me how expensive it would be. Hi, my name is Shanise, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in North Carolina. And I just wanted to let up and coming therapists know the realities of actually being a therapist, the things they don't really tell you in grad school. In this video, I want to talk about how much does it actually cost you to be a therapist, and I'm talking about actual money. And just a disclaimer that everybody is different. Everybody has a different experience, and the pricing may be different for people depending on the license that you have and the state that you live in as well. I am an MFT, so I'm coming from an MFT standpoint, and I also live in North Carolina, so things may be a little different. But this is just an overview so you know what to look into and just have an idea of what you might need to be saving right now. So something that you may already know is that when you graduate, of course, you have to apply for the state test, you have to take the state test, you have to apply for your license, and then you also have to pay for your license as well. All of that you really have to pay for, and typically you can just go online into your state board website for your license and your state and see how much that costs. And so that varies a lot, but that can get into the 400 to 600 range depending on your license and the state that you live in. What I think people tend to forget about is the fact that when you're doing all this, you have to have a supervisor. Before I could even apply for my state exam, I had to find a supervisor and put them on my paper as in, I have a supervisor going forward that I can use, to continue with my therapy career. So, how much does supervision actually cost? Well, of course, it depends, because some people may work at a group practice that offers free supervision for the practice. And so if you work there, you can get free supervision, but the issue can be that they may not have your same credentialing. So for MFTs, we have to have an MFT supervisor. We can't have an LPC supervisor or a social work supervisor. It will not count towards our full licensure. So if you do not have one that is an MFT, you have to go out yourself and pay for an MFT supervisor. So supervision can cost around $50 to $200, sometimes even more than that, depending on the supervisor, unfortunately. And you have to think that this is not weekly, monthly, or yearly. This is per supervision hour, okay? So yes, it can get pricey. And I know that with MFT, you have to have a minimum of 1 supervision hour per month. And on top of that, you have to have a certain ratio. So for me, I only had to have one supervision hour per month because I already had so many built up in grad school. But if you don't, then you may have to get more because you have to have a certain amount of supervision per the amount of direct contact hours that you have with clients. Now, I had a supervisor who wasn't charging as much as others around me. I paid $75 per group session, and then I paid $110 per individual session. But of course, me trying to save a buck and being basically broke when I was coming out of college, I always did the group supervision because that's all I could afford, and I could barely afford that, to be honest. So look for the cheapest one, but the value that you're getting out of the supervisor, of course, is more important. I actually had a supervisor who did what I needed her to do, basically, for my goals within my career. And of course, this is only for associate therapists, as in provisionally licensed. Once you become fully licensed, you no longer have to pay for supervision, though it is good to get it every once in a while. But no, it's not mandatory to have supervision once you're fully licensed. So here's something that I did not know about at all when I graduated grad school. You will need something called professional liability insurance, aka malpractice insurance. So basically, if a client files a claim against you, some type of lawsuit against you, that insurance pays for your legal fees. Now, you may be thinking, I don't really care about that, but you really should, because most practices will not let you work there without having professional liability insurance. And that can range from $100 per year to shoot, $900 per year, maybe even above that, depending on the company that you have it with. And I pay $670 as of right now per year, which is around, I think, $69 per month. And even I'm looking currently to get that down. So I try to go every single year to look for different companies to see what pricing is looking like now, just to cut my expense. Because one thing about me, I love to save a dollar. So something that you may already know about is renewing your license and having CEUs. In order to renew your license, you have to have a certain amount of CEUs. So in North Carolina for MLT, you have to have 40 CEU credits. And I think that's pretty standard across different licensures, but this is what I know for me. So CEUs can cost around $100 to $200, but me being the person that I am, I always look for coupons. I look for free CEUs that I make sure is, still useful towards my license, because some of them the board doesn't take and some of them that the board does take. So, you can use coupons, you can use free ones a lot of times. And also, if you're working at a certain place, a lot of times they will also offer free CEUs as well. So don't stress too hard about that. Just try your hardest to find what you can find and save a buck. That's what I do. And so renewing my license, I have to renew it every year. Some places and licensures do it every 2 years, and that's about $100 per year. So if you do it 1 year, it's $100. If you have to do it every 2 years, it'll be a $200 fee. It's not that bad, but it's something to think about and save up throughout the year, just in case, you may run into an issue. You want to keep your license active. That's how you get paid, because you can't do therapy if you don't have an active license. So again, something to think about. Okay, let's get into 1099 jobs, okay? I'm gonna do a whole different video about being a therapist and working 1099 jobs. But what a lot of us don't realize is when you become a therapist and you work at these private practices or these group practices or even these nonprofits, a lot of them are 1099 jobs, as in contracting jobs, which means that you don't pay taxes on the money that you get, but you do still have to pay taxes. So when you get the money, you have to set aside money to pay towards taxes at the end of the year, which means you need to know how to do your taxes at the end of the year. So the interesting thing about being a therapist and working for group practices, private practices, nonprofits, the whole nine, is that they pay you scraps. I'm sorry, I gotta be honest. I have to tell you, they pay you scraps. I know that my graduate program told me, if you're gonna be a therapist, you can't be in it for the money. And it's pretty much true, because a lot of us do not make big money with this profession. So the average around here, from what I have seen here in Charlotte, North Carolina, is that most places pay you like $35 if you are an associate therapist. But also, if you are even fully licensed, you get paid like $45, maybe $60. And I know that sounds great to somebody who has not already started working as a therapist, but it's not that great as you think it is. Now let's do the math. Let's say that you're getting paid $35 per session. Let's say you have 12 sessions a week. And honestly, that is like the reality. A lot of us are not working 30 to 40 clients a week. That is overload. It's too much. And truth be told, like, when it comes to places like that, you may not get that full caseload, especially when you start off. So let's say that you're making $35 per session. So let's say an average of 12 clients a week. 35 times 12 is $420. So you just made $420. But guess what? Since you're working a 1099, they didn't take out any taxes. So what you think you're making, you're not really making. Really, if you take away taxes, which is around 20 to 25% per check, is going to be $315 a week. Times that by 4, that is $1,260. You think $1,260 is a lot, but baby, that is nothing but rent right there. Baseline rent, especially here in Charlotte. Now, let's say that you're making $35 and you have 20 clients. With that same exact math, you're really coming out with $2,100. Again, you think that's a whole bunch, but baby, you got bills. You got to think about all this. On top of the bills of life, you still have to pay that professional liability and that supervision, and then marketing, which is what we're about to get into. So just know that when you're working a 1099 job, which is what most of us do, you are not getting those taxes out, and you have to save money per check to the side so you can make sure that you pay taxes the next year, because you need to pay your taxes. Okay, I'm sure we know why. So on top of putting aside money for that, I'm sure you're going to want to put aside money for savings, or just for life, for bills, for your marketing, for your professional liability, for your supervision. It's a whole thing. And so know that with this, you're not getting any 401k. You have to make your own retirement plan, okay? So this $35 that you think is a lot is not. That $60 that you think is a lot is not. So just know, mentally prepare for that now, because honestly, as an associate, you may not get paid much more until you become fully licensed and are able to go out on your own. And I will make another video about that too, how to go off on your own and make better money. So let's get into marketing. Because as a therapist working at a nonprofit or a private practice, whatever it may be, if the people are not coming in, you're not getting paid. So you may need to do your own advertising sometimes, and that can look like getting on Psychology Today or Therapy Den, or just different platforms online that you can market yourself through. So a place like Psychology Today, that's around $30 per month, which equals to around $360 per year. And so, you know, you want to save up money for that too, and just think about, how am I going to pay for this? Can I look up coupons for that? Can I advertise in a different way? But typically, any type of advertisement is normally going to cost money. So that's just something to think about. If you work at a nonprofit, honestly, nonprofits typically get more clients because they're a nonprofit and they normally do sliding scales and things of that nature. But just know, I would do another video too about nonprofits that you might need to know about. They are no joke concerning your own mental health. But either way, you will have to pay for your own marketing a lot of the times. And these two last things are not necessarily about what you're spending, but just some little tidbits to keep with you so you can mentally prepare now. You don't get paid for notes. You don't get paid for your time that you take writing notes. Now, I have seen one person or one place just the other day who actually do pay for notes, like $20 per hour for notes. That was amazing. My ears were astonished, like, what? But majority of places do not pay for you to take notes, because they're going off of insurance, and insurance only pays for the amount of time that you spend in your therapy session, not for the notes that you take afterwards, which can take some time. So go ahead and prepare your mind now that you might be writing notes for the free ski, okay? You might be. It's okay. We all have to do it. Until things change, this is what it is. And so the last thing I want to talk about is that realistically, most therapists have a side hustle or two jobs. That's just the reality of it. Especially starting out, you're not really making as much as you may want to, or can even afford to in this economy right now. So a lot of us have second jobs. A lot of us have side hustles that we have to do to make ends meet, or to even have a little bit more than what we currently have. So just think about that too, and how that may look for you. Not saying that you will have to have one, but realistically, that is just what it looks like for a lot of us. A lot of us are trying to figure out, how can we still do therapy and help people, but make the money that we feel like we deserve to make. So none of this was to discourage you. I was really just trying to put you on game so you can be realistic and have an understanding of like what's coming ahead of you, okay? Because a lot of us get like punched in the face, completely knocked to the left, because we didn't know what was coming. We didn't know we had to pay for all this. But now you can at least look into your state, look into your licensure to see how much it may be for you to just be a therapist. So if you have any more questions about this, please let me know in the comments. I would love to reply to some of y'all or make some extra videos on what could be helpful for y'all to know.